What's up guys, Lvladen here, and today I'm coming at you with my Shadowlands Retribution Paladin PvP guide. Now, this guide is going to be a little extensive. I'm going to go over absolutely everything that you need to know in order to succeed with a Ret in PvP in Shadowlands, and that's going to start out with Covenants. Alright, so the Covenant that I went, and what I think is best, is the Kyrian Covenant, and that is because Divine Toll does insane damage. Right now, actually, on day 1 of Shadowlands, they nerfed the interaction between Lawbringer and Divine Toll. So now Divine Toll only procs a single Lawbringer no matter what. But when you get the 4 charges with your Ringing Clarity Conduit from Pelagos, it does insane single target damage. Like, you can almost one-shot someone. It's beautiful. So that is why Kyrian is the best. In addition to that, you get a giant mastery buff from Pelagos right here, Combat Meditation. And your Kyrian Files of Serenities act as an additional defensive cooldown, which is more than welcome in today's fast meta. It's off GCD as well, so you can press it in a panic. It's great. All right, so for my Soulbind, I went this path first. I took the Potency Conduit, Ringing Clarity, obviously for the one-shot, and then Focusing Mantra because it's forced into it. But you can swap over to a Finesse and a File of Patience if you want a more defensive build. So, for example, I'm going to go not Wrench Evil. I'm going to go Pure Concentration in this one. So, when I need to swap to a defensive conduit, I'll go ahead and toss in my Pure Concentration. And eventually, I'm going to be running Ring Clarity along with Shielding Words in my Endurance slot. And then it doesn't matter which one of these you go to. It's just PvE stuff. I'll probably take the more materials. And then another potency, in which case I will be going, not Virtuous Command. I will be going, even though I have a really high Virtuous Command, I have a 184 Virtuous Command. It's only 10% additional damage. I will be going the Templar's Vindication for the extra fat damage on Templar's Verdict. Now, there's a chance when I get an even higher version of Virtuous Command, I will end up going this conduit. But for the moment, 33% chance to strike for an additional 30% of TV's damages is fairly large, so that's what I'm looking at right now. And then I will be going a Finesse Conduit down here, which is likely going to be between Wrench Evil, Pure Concentration, and Echoing Blessings. Now, Echoing Blessings at a much higher rank is going to provide a 12% speed buff, which is essential to Ret. So one day I want to have a higher version of this. I'll be going it right here, and this actually, you can buy the high version off the Conquest vendor when it's open. But Pure Concentration, reducing fear effects, is going to be insane. So it's between these two right here, and then Wrench Evil as a additional third. Maybe you can toss it in the Finesse Conduit up here whenever you are feeling a little defensive like. So yeah, that's about it for the Soulbind tree. So Kyrian, the move for sure. If you guys don't like Kyrian, you're not a fan, Nightfade is not too bad. And behind that, we have Necrolord and Venthyr in PvP. I wouldn't recommend either of those right now. So if you don't like Kyrian, go Nightfade. There's plenty of Ret conduits and Soulbinds that are beneficial there in terms of mobility and damage. But I'd say Kyrian is better than Nightfade. For the next part of the guide, I'm going to be going over talents. So this is probably the first expansion since Warlords of Draenor where we've had the ability to interchange our talents almost every game. So what I mean by that is there are multiple viable talents per row. Right now, I don't recommend going Execution Sentence because the game pacing is so fast that in order to get this set up, the game's probably already over by the time it's going to go off, and you're better off spending that 3 Holy Power on a Templar's Verdict. But if the meta slows down, Execution Sentence is going to be used on teams or against teams that don't have much mobility, and you can have high uptime with Seraphim, Final Reckoning, etc., and get a massive Execution Sentence off. So this is nerfed in PvP, but you can still get I got a 24k execution in an arena that someone somehow survived all my burst up until the execution went off, and it just hit them for 24k. So it's not that bad if you have the uptime. The next tier, I'd recommend Blade of Wrath, especially with Zeal, because Zeal and Blade of Wrath pair very well together. In Shadowlands, Blade of Wrath now procs based off of your auto attack, not a limited procs per minute, but rather how many auto attacks you get off. So these synergize very well. On your 30 tier, recommend Fist of Justice, but both other talents are situationally viable. I always run Cavalier myself, but in really, you know, in 3v3, you should probably be running the shortened Divine Shield cooldown. Now, this is a personal preference because I don't have too many issues surviving in PvP, and the games are very, very short anyway, so it's the likelihood of you living to another bubble is very low. So I'm taking the extra mobility. And then in threes, we have so many options. Seraphim is probably the best choice in 3v3, but if you're running against a team that you need another defensive option, Holy Avenger provides insane Word of Glory healing, especially paired with Healing Hands right now. And then you can take Divine Purpose in casual PvP, such as Battlegrounds, Duels, etc. But my personal favorite choice is Seraphim for the increased damage. Now, on the 45 row, we have another two choices. We have Healing Hands and Selfless Healer. Now, this is personal preference, but Healing Hands is reduced to 70% increase in PvP combat, and Selfless Healer is unnerfed. So it's really up to you guys what style healing you want to do, but they're both viable. Never go Justicar's Vengeance. It is terrible right now. It's been terrible since, you know, the second season of Legion, so I don't recommend running it. And then finally, on the last tier of the normal talents, we have two choices. We have Final Reckoning and Sanctified Wrath. Sanctified Wrath is perfectly okay in, you know, big Mongo, you know, you're going to play a Ret Warrior comp, but so is Final Reckoning. So this is really up to you guys. I personally prefer Final Reckoning because it's an additional ranged ability. It hits very hard. It's not nerfed in PvP like it was in the pre-patch. It is still 50% increased damage from your Holy Power abilities for 8 seconds. So it provides for some insane single target and some AoE burst. But Sanctified Wrath is another viable choice. Now for the PvP talents, this is something that I'm constantly swapping up. You have Law and Order, Or Reckoning, and Lawbringer. So this is probably my default build right here. But if you guys are in Arena, right now, since they nerfed Lawbringer for Divine Toll, you don't absolutely need it. So you're going to be swapping Lawbringer for stuff like Or Reckoning, sometimes Law and Order for Unbound Freedom. And interestingly enough, I think that people are going to start to realize that Or Reckoning is actually totally mandatory. It procs so often, your white swings are actually huge. It gives you an additional random wings, and the more random things in PvP that your opponents can't really respond to, the better you're going to do in Arena. So this is likely the 3v3 setup, and then this is likely the general use setup right here. So it's totally up to you guys, but in threes, Sanctuary is going to be really good. Unbound Freedom is going to be really good. In duels, you know, Unbound Freedom is going to be really good against Purge classes like Shaman and Mage and Shadow Priest. But outside of that, you don't really need it. It's not super mandatory. So yeah, default setup. There you go. Okay, so this is probably the most important part of the Ret guide, and it is the burst rotation. Now, Ret in Shadowlands is probably one of the most, I'm not going to say complicated, but it's probably the most complicated it's been to burst as a Ret Paladin in its entire history. And this is going to exclude the execution sentence build because we're not going to be using it for the foreseeable future. So this is going to be the standard Ret rotation burst. So what you're going to do is you're going to get 5 Holy Power. You're going to press Seraphim. You're going to Wings. You're going to Hammer of Wrath. You're going to Final Reckoning. You're going to Templar's Verdict. You're going to press Divine Toll. Now, depending on how many procs of Judgment you get, you might Wake of Ashes after, or Blade of Justice into a Templar's Verdict. Or if you get the Ringing Clarity proc, you can just straight up Templar's Verdict, then Wake of Ashes, then Templar's Verdict again, then Judge, and then Templar's Verdict. So you're getting out 3 to 4 Templar's Verdicts, depending on the amount of procs that you get from your Divine Toll. Now, I'm going to show you guys an example of this, and I'll try and get something on the screen to show you the order. All right, so let's look at the very basic Retribution burst setup. So we're going to get 5 Holy Power. We're going to Blade of Justice into a Judgment, into a double Crusader Strike. We're going to Seraphim. We're going to Wings. We're going to Hammer of Wrath. We're going to Final Reckoning into a Templar's Verdict, Divine Toll, Templar's Verdict, Wake of Ashes, Templar's Verdict, Judgment, Templar's Verdict, Hammer of Wrath. Now that is your best possible burst setup. And following that, you just follow the normal PvE rotation, which is making sure you don't overcap on your Holy Power, while simultaneously keeping everything on cooldown, prioritizing Judgment if you're about the Templar's Verdict, or Blade of Justice if you're not going to overcap into, 5+ Holy Power. For Ret's stat priority of this expansion, stats are very closely weighted. You have to prioritize versatility, as always. It's the best PvP stat. But after that, it's very, very close between haste, mastery, and crit. Crit is no longer a dead stat because Blizzard unnerfed it from 150% back to 200%. And haste is very effective in terms of Ret PvE DPS, getting your GCD shorter and your cooldowns back faster. But mastery makes your divine toll hit even harder in your Templar's Verdict. So it's up to you how you would like to choose to balance these stats. Personally, I'm going to go versatility with haste and mastery, prioritize second, and lastly crit. But crit, definitely not a dead stat anymore. Quick side note for gearing is enchanting is back, so I get plus 30 stats on my chest. I'm taking a plus 20 stamina and 30 speed on my cloak whenever I get a better cloak. I have a plus 10 strength on my hands. You can get a plus 15 if you can afford it. There's also enchants for your rings. You can get verse or mastery. I'm running one of each right now with a gem of plus 18 strength from BFA because Blizzard hasn't hotfixed that out of the game yet. You can also get summit side enchants that aren't really stat based on your boots. I believe there's a falling damage reduction you could get that could potentially be beneficial. And yeah, that's pretty it. That's pretty much it. All right, now I'm going to talk about legendaries for a quick second. So the legendary that I think is best for Ret at the moment, there's actually three, are Zephu's, Uther's Devotion, and Final Verdict. Any of these three are probably going to be really good in PvP. Now, if you're human, I think Zephu's is likely the best because it allows you to safely go double DPS trinkets. So you're going to have huge uptime on 93 primary stat and 50% uptime on 80 secondary stats with Zephu's, in addition to the 10% CC reduction you get from having this. Now, in it also, you should 100% get a chest piece legendary because Uther's Devotion and Final Verdict are both chest pieces. So in the future, when you want to get your additional legendaries, all you have to do is swap out your legendary. You don't have to farm another, non-legendary chest piece and then get a neck or something like that. You just have the chest piece. And as a quick note, the best PvE legendaries are Relentless, Inquisitor, and what's the other one here? And the Mad Paragon. So those are going to be the two PvE legendaries. For PvP, I went Zephu's first as a human. If you're non-human, I recommend probably Final Verdict. If you can't wait till next week, then Uther's Devotion. In terms of gearing, this expansion has been the easiest it's been in what, 40 years? Something like that, since Warlords of Draenor. So what you have to do is you just grind out honor points. You can do that between level 10 and 59 if you want to do that through leveling, or you can grind it out at level 60. Totally up to you. And you come over to the honor vendor in Oribos. It's in this corner right here, the Enclave, and you just buy the gear that you want. And it's all here, along with two legendary memories. I already bought one, so I only have one displaying right here. And then you can upgrade them at the Facilitator of Conflict, about 2 spots to the right. You toss in your gear right here, and then you upgrade it with more honor. So right now, we're soft capped at a rank 3 upgrade, and when we hit Renown 7, which is in a couple weeks, we'll be able to upgrade all of our honor gear another time. And I think eventually the cap of the honor gear is 197? So it's pretty high up there, but it's going to take a little bit to get our renown up to those levels. So, a base 171 set of full honor gear is really solid if you don't want to jump into any mythics. Alternatively, you can do mythic zeros right now and just get some 184 pieces and also craft your legendary. And like I said before, we're going to be going with the chest piece legendary because all the legendaries for Ret, the best ones for PvP, are on the chest piece, so we can easily swap them out. But yeah, that's about it for gearing. Very simple, very easy, this expansion. Alright, let's get to the most asked question of the guide. So, macros and add-ons. I'll show you guys my macros real quick right here. If you can see these, basically these just change the icon of my abilities. So Blade of Justice is Exorcism, Hand of Hindrance is Seal of Justice, Wake of Ashes is Holy Wrath, and Shield of Vengeance is Sacred Shield. Now, in terms of actual useful macros, I have my burst macro right here that just pops my wings and my my badge, and a Saltwater Potion if I have any. I have my mouseover bop macro, which I'll provide all my macros in the description. I have a Focus Shift Hammer of Justice modifier macro. Basically, if I just right-click this guy, so I have him as my focus target, and I deselect him, and I hold Shift on my normal Hammer of Justice, boom, uses it on him right there. Obviously, this guy's immune to stun, so it didn't stun him. So there's that. In addition to that, I have mouseover Hand of Sacrifice macro. I have the same setup for my Rebuke macro that I do my Hammer of Justice macro. And then the same format for my Hand of Freedom. I'm sorry, where is it? Right here. Same macro for Hand of Freedom that I do for my Bop and my Sack. Now, for my Final Reckoning, I have it at cursor. So basically, if I walk out and I press my Final Reckoning over my cursor, it's just going to target the area rather than show the green targeting circle, and then you have to click it again. This way, it's just fast cast. If you guys play League, it's fast cast. I also have a mouse over cleanse macro. All my macros will be in the description again, and probably something that you guys should start getting used to is a cancelaura macro. So you just toss this on a keybind wherever. So for me, it's my middle mouse button, and when I press it, it will cancel my Blessing of Freedom or my Blessing of Protection, depending on what I have on, in case you're trying to stop a mage from spell stealing it and getting away. And then, yeah, that's basically it for my useful macros. Again, everything will be in the description. If you want to copy paste or have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. I'll try and respond to as many as I can before I get flooded and can't get to everyone anymore. So that leads me to add-ons. Now, my add-ons, my damage text is classic numbers. This brings back the old crit font that we had prior to, Legion, I think? I think it went away in Legion. In addition to that, I run big debuffs, which if I'm in a party, will display the CCs on my teammates and the CCs to the right of the mob. And then I run flyplay buffs. Now, I'll leave the link to flyplay buffs in the description because there's a short guide in the comments of the add-on on CurseForge that you need to follow in order to get the add-on to activate. And that gets rid of the LUA errors that you would have unless someone goes back into the code and updates the add-on. Hopefully, eventually that will happen. But until then, you just need to run it to Notepad, delete 3 lines of code, press save, and then you should be good to go. The guide is very explanatory. Just need Notepad. That's pretty much it. What else do I use for add-ons? Interface. Let me get in here. I use Details for my damage tracker. I use Omni CD for teammate cooldowns. You can go into the spell editor, add spells, subtract spells, whatever you need. Change the Change the visibility and position. And then I use Omni Bar to track enemy cooldowns, such as interrupts. And then yeah, that's basically it. I don't really use Handy Notes. I need to uninstall that, but yeah, fairly simple for the add-ons. All right, guys, I think that's it for the guide. I hope you guys found this helpful. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LvladenPvP. We have our first emote now. It's juicy damage, so get in there. If you have Twitch Prime, I'd be very appreciative. You can get access to that emote. But if not, guys, thank you for all the support recently. I hope you all enjoy Shadowlands. All right, peace.